There are three facets of this project right now that are all happening simultaneously. So one, we have exploratory demo to learn a little bit more about how the house was constructed and also uncover potential issues. Two is refining the design of the project and also getting ready to submit for permits. Three is getting numbers from contractors to, try to keep some type of budget. And the result is this sometimes maddening process where you uncover something through the exploratory demo, which impacts design and permitting, and then it also impacts your price. The tricky thing is knowing how long to stay in this period, because on one hand, it's really helpful to keep refining the design and keep moving towards the best project possible, but also at some point you need to start making decisions and getting the project going. So that's kind of where I find myself now. If you're new here, my name's Chris and I bought this house about a month ago. I graduated from architecture school a couple years ago and it's always been a dream to renovate my own home. I'm documenting the whole process here on YouTube with weekly videos, so if you want to keep up to date with this project and see how everything's going, definitely consider subscribing. So what have I been up to this week? All right, here's the goal for this morning. I'm gonna be taking bricks out from up there. I already started, there's a couple. And I'll just hand them down to you and maybe stack up the ones we might be able to keep, like the ones that are kind of good and the ones that are kind of bad. You got it? And look, we have some real proper PPE nowadays. This is serious work. Are you feeling protected?
I feel like Darth Vader. I don't think you should stand on that.
I know.
It's gonna break eventually. Oh my god. This isn't right. This is not right. How do you even... Oh.
This is my life now. Oh, it's so dark. Brick number one. Brick number two. Brick number three.
How many bricks are there?
There's a lot here. There's a lot.
Oh. Dear, if I'm being honest, I don't think these bricks are salvageable.
Some of them are. They're coming out pretty good though. Here, let me show you what I'm working with up here. You can see there's a lot of natural light coming in here. This is the chimney we're trying to remove right here. I just realized it is supporting the roof a little bit in a really weird way. So I'm gonna have to support that before we take this whole thing down, but let me just show you what this is like. I'm just going brick by brick, breaking up the mortar in between. It's gonna be a long process. Once I have my brick ready, just drop it down the hole, and my lovely assistant escorts it away. Nice. Oh boy. Okay. Whew. I'm wondering if any of these bricks will be salvageable. I'd love to reuse them somewhere if I can. Just depends on how hard this mortar is to get off, so I'm gonna give that a try. I don't know. Can you salvage that? Well, I got 18 bricks out of probably a few thousand that need to come out. And there's different grades of bricks, and bricks for the fireplace, they're never really going to be seen all the way up there in the chimney. So they're not really good quality bricks, but the reason to save them, throwing out heavy things is expensive. And also, if I can clean them up a little and find a use for them, I love that it tells a little bit of the story of the house using the old chimney bricks for a floor or something. Like outside, On the patio, I could see doing something like this, little herringbone pattern. Alternatively, these could be used to build up a planter in the backyard for the outdoor plants. And who knows? I mean, I just think that it might be worth the time. It is a lot of time to just get all the mortar off of these, so I'm not sure if it's gonna be worth it, but I just like the idea of saving materials. Now let's shift gears and talk about design. As the cycle goes, exploratory demo leads to discoveries that impact design. So on the first floor, I realized that behind this chimney that's being removed, there's incredible old growth lumber that would be really cool to expose. Just a side note on the design, there's not a ton of original historic details to preserve in this house, unfortunately, but one of my strategies is to expose a lot of the old growth lumber and also have some exposed brick to celebrate the age of the house and add some character to the design. Let me show you some of the issues with my previous design. I was thinking of doing a galley kitchen, but for one, the distance between these bench tops is a little bit too wide to be convenient, but it's also too narrow to fit in a kitchen island. Another issue with this design is the stovetop. You can see it's over here on the south wall, and the problem is my neighbor's house is right across the wall from that. So it's really hard to vent the stove. I mentioned this layout isn't big enough to fit a kitchen island, and that's really an issue for me. My current kitchen that I've lived with for many years has an island, and it's just great to have a spot where you can hang out while someone's cooking and have a casual place for dining. So I was really having trouble letting that go. Now let's take a look at the changes. I removed this whole bench top on that south wall, and this allows me to expose the cool old growth timber. Also, by removing that, now I have room for this kitchen island. And another kind of opportunity this provides, I'm not sure if I am gonna end up doing this, but having the possibility of entering the basement from this side might just make the layout make more sense, make it easier to bring things up and down those stairs. So we'll see about that. Now, to get everything off of that south wall, I moved the refrigerator down here, and next to it would be a pantry. Now there's room for the stovetop here to vent directly out to the exterior, which is gonna make things a whole lot easier. Another thing I'm considering with this design process is on this north wall, the top plate is damaged, and the engineer is calling to have a steel plate that goes across the entire top. The bolts of this plate will stick out about an inch, so rather than trying to fur out the whole wall and losing some valuable space, this kitchen design provides this soffit right above the cabinets that will be a great place to hide that steel beam. And just a side note, looking at the structural drawing here, these two wing walls are actually structural. They're shear walls which provide lateral support for the structure. And now that I'm thinking about it, exposing this old timber might be a little bit harder than I expect because the engineer has this wall called out as a shear wall as well. Now, a shear wall requires sheathing to create that lateral stability, so I'm gonna have to coordinate with him to hopefully be able to show some of this old wood off. One potential downside of this new layout is it kind of destroys the work triangle, which if you've ever thought about kitchen design, you're probably familiar with it. And my design here, the new design, has a linear kitchen. So the refrigerator, stove, and sink are all in one line. And the kitchen I've lived with for a long time has that same layout, and I really don't mind it, so I don't think it'll be a problem. Now I want to show you some visualizations of what this design will look like. And keep in mind, this isn't like refined kitchen design. Everything's not going to be white in reality. This is more kind of space planning level. This is how you save enough money to buy a house. You let your girlfriend cut your hair. Do you know how to do this?
I watched a lot of videos.
For a first time cutting hair, I think she did a pretty good job. So we covered exploratory demo and design. Now let's talk with some builders. Hey Jared, welcome back. Good to see you. So when you sent your quote, you didn't see the structural drawings,
I didn't.
right? And have you had a chance to look through them?
No.
Okay, so we could start there, I suppose. New shear wall for this opening, some concrete that'll need to be poured, and anchors for a new 2x6 wall there.
So that's not crazy. Looks better than I thought it was gonna look.
Really?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
A lot better than I thought it was gonna look. I thought it was gonna look terrible when you opened it up in there.
Yeah, it's weird construction, right?
Yeah, this is kind of weird, right?
But luckily that side, is the shared party wall, so there's no moisture, and from what I've discovered so far, it doesn't look like there's any damage on that side. So I was planning to frame from there. For the addition to above, you could just frame joist right on top of the existing.
Okay. I mean, as long as the structural engineer signs off on it, dude, I'm cool.
Is it worth just, replacing this wall with 2x6s?
I mean, you get a lot more R value, that's for sure. And I think
Yeah,
like the
you can
new
always-
code is 21 maybe for exterior wall or
you can
something
always
like
fur
that.
it out. So he's saying any with 10% section loss would be replaced with double 2x4s, and then a flitch plate on the top beam.
Yeah.
But it does seem, at least for now, without additional weight of an addition, like the top plate doesn't seem to be like bowing or sagging or doing anything too awful right now, which is why I might want to try to save it. But
Yeah. I guess it's kind of like half a dozen of one, and 6 of another, in the sense that, in my mind, like the wall doesn't look amazing, it doesn't look terrible, but if we're gonna put another,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
In my
Additional weight.
estimation, I think if you're gonna add more weight to it, then I think it makes sense to yoink it and then redo it. I think if you're gonna leave it as it is and not do an addition, it's held up for 100 years already.
Yeah, but even with the structural engineer, he's come out several times, and he's factored in the additional weight.
Okay.
And
Again, like if he's signing off on it, dude, we'll build it.
yeah,
You
it's
know?
more like the buildability
Yeah.
of like and the cost. Is it going to be more trouble than it's worth to try to patchwork and try to slip new lumber down below this whole thing and do all that? Is that going to be more time in the long run and more cost than just rebuilding?
I think rebuilding is more in the sense that you know exactly what it is that you're gonna do. We'll build like a stud wall, we'll take it out, we'll put it back in, and it's done. I think the other is like, it's a lot more variable in the sense that like, how much time is it gonna take for me
Yeah.
to do this? How much time is it gonna take for me to do the nitpicky stuff of trying to get, the beams underneath there and this, that, the other? And so for me, it's easier for me to estimate the time based on we're taking it out and we're putting it back in.
It was really great to get this contractor's opinion on whether or not I should rebuild this whole wall. And right after I talked with him, I had another guy come out. He was a framing subcontractor, and he had actually just worked on a similar old house with this old wood framing. And he was on the other side of preferring to just keep the existing wall. So let me walk you through some of the pros and cons of these two options, and I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. The pro of rebuilding the wall, of course, it just becomes more conventional framing. I can install a proper air barrier, I'd get all new cladding, and everything would make a lot more sense. But of course, the big con here is money. If I rebuild the whole wall, one, you need to throw away all of that plaster, all the wood. Well, I try to keep the wood, but huge cost in demolition, materials to reframe, labor to reframe. I mean, it could be $10,000 to $30,000 to rebuild this whole wall. Another con is the city of Philadelphia draws this arbitrary line as to when a renovation project crosses into new construction. They say it's when you replace 2/3 of an existing structure, but in reality, it's a little bit more unpredictable. Now, what happens if you cross that line? So for one, you'd be required to provide engineering drawings for electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. That alone could be $10,000 to $15,000 in cost. And then the big one is once it becomes new construction, everything needs to be to code. So I would have to rebuild the existing stairs, which ruins the whole layout and causes a whole lot of problems. So I'm trying to do my best to not cross that line.